Hello and welcome everyone, Lionheart here, and today I'm reviewing this XMG. No, this is the XMG C703 gaming laptop, which as you can see is incredibly thin. This is has the title of the world's thinnest gaming laptop at 22mm thick. That is incredibly thin. As you can see by me quickly twirling around, there is no optical drive, there's no DVD drive or anything like that, so you'll have to use an external one. But now with the age of Steam, Origin, cloud saves, even things like iTunes where you can re-download all your purchases and things like that, it is coming to the point where, really, do you actually necessarily need an optical drive to be bundled in with your laptop when you can just pick up an external one later on, should you need to? So that really isn't doubtful for it. Because of that, getting rid of that optical drive, this is incredibly thin. Actually, for a gaming laptop, and this is a 17-inch gaming laptop I should say, it's quite light. It's 2.6 kilograms. Now, the previous gaming laptop that I've owned for over 4 years now, the MSI GX740, that weighs 3.4 kilograms. That's quite heavy, and I used to carry that into uni every day with me to type up notes and things like that before I got an iPad. This, yes, it's still heavy, but because it's so thin, it's actually a lot easier to carry around with you. You can easily slip it into a backpack, take it with you. I am still, even now, even though I've been using this for about 3 weeks, I'm still amazed at how thin this is and how sleek the design is. I've got to be honest, it does seem a bit weird almost, there's such a big laptop being so thin. The dimensions seem a bit odd because you're constantly thinking, this can't be right, it can't be this thin. But it is. So anyway, I'm going to show you the laptop close up, talk about the specifications, talk about its pricing for the various specifications. Then we're going to look at some benchmarks, which is really all you need to know. In this day and age for a game laptop, you want to know how it's going to run with certain games. So I'm going to be looking at Total War Rome 2, Dota 2, and Assassin's Creed 4. Now, hopefully, if you guys want to see some other games benchmark, I'll do them in separate videos throughout the rest of this week before I have to send this back, because it's just a review sample as such. So if there are any other games that you want me to cover, perhaps Titanfall, Battlefield 4, I will do them as separate benchmark videos later on this week. So let me know in the comments if there's any games you'd like to see covered or any other benchmarks and tests done with this. But in this review I'm just going to kind of be focusing on this laptop's performance in those games, the features that it comes with, how I feel it runs, sort of how much noise it makes, how hot it gets, general stuff like that, and then I'll wrap up and obviously give it a score, tell you what I like about it, tell you what I don't like about it. So let's have a look at the XMG.
So here are the tech specs for the laptop. Has an Intel i7 4700HQ processor, stock clock speed of 2.4 GHz, which can turbo when you're in-game or using a CPU-intensive program, up to 3.4 GHz, which is a very reasonable speed. 8 gig of RAM, although this is upgradable to 16 gig if you desire, obviously adding more money to the overall cost. Has an NVIDIA GTX 765M, and of course it is a 17.3 inch 16:9 1920 by 1080 maximum resolution LED backlit display for its screen. Now, the one bit I've omitted there is the Samsung Evo 840 500GB solid state hard drive. Now that's the specific one that came in this review model, which is why I put review model at the top. If you go on the website, which as I've said, link is in the description, you can completely customize this laptop in terms of how much RAM and the hard drive configuration. The processor is not upgradable, nor is the graphics card, which I'll talk about a little bit more later on, and why this may not be necessarily a positive. Obviously, because of that thin chassis design, there are limitations in how much you can upgrade this. However, I would strongly recommend you probably look at a hard drive configuration of either the 64GB, I believe it is, or the 120GB solid-state hard drive as your primary hard drive for your operating system, and then get either the 750GB normal hard drive or the 1TB for all your data and games. I think that would be a pretty reasonable data solution. Anyway, we're now going to have a look at the size of the laptop to show all the various ports it has, and then we'll continue the review in detail. The screen, Sound Blaster speakers, a trackpad, and then we'll get into those benchmarks.
So you have on the left hand side, first of all, a vent obviously try and keep it as cool as possible. I'll talk about more about the temperatures and fan noises and things like that later on with the benchmarking. You have a killer Ethernet port there. I say killer because it's the network adapter that's been installed. It's one that basically gives you the hopefully the lowest latency, the best ping possible, so you're not going to you know, slightly lag a bit and miss your shot in game. You have HDMI, you have mini display ports, you have two 3.0 USB ports, and then you have your headphone and microphone jacks. Nothing on the front, bar some status light indicators, little groove to catch the lip of the lid there. Over on the right hand side you have two more 3.0 USB ports, an SD card reader, you have the power jack, which just goes nicely in there. Interesting to see it not on the back for once, but as you'll see when we have a look at the back in the moment, there isn't actually much room because it's mainly built around supporting the hinges for the screen. And then you have a Kensington laptop lock if you want to lock up your laptop at your desk or something like that. And then you have another grill there, a vent. Just on the back, there is actually nothing to see here really. It is pretty much just the hinge here for the screen. No room really, I guess, for any power adapters or any more USB ports, but you've got 4 USB ports, and you know, you can always get a USB hub if you feel like you need more. Something you guys are probably thinking that is missing while we were looking at all the various parts of the laptop there is in fact an optical drive, and you would be spot on there. There is no optical drive with this laptop, and even in the configuration options there is no ability with the thin design of this case to add an optical drive built in. You can buy an external disk drive rather, or optical drive for playing DVDs and Blu-rays, but in the age of cloud storage and things like Steam and Origin, on the most part you probably aren't going to use that too much unless you're ripping some music. But in that case, XMG actually do offer the opportunity to buy an external drive direct from them, or you can probably find one on Amazon or something like that. Anyway, this is running Windows 8 Enterprise, which I do find a bit of an odd build or OS choice, to be honest. Obviously this is just a review sample, so the Windows is not activated. You might be able to see that in the bottom right hand corner. There's a little overlay saying please activate Windows, but because this is just a review sample I've been sent to have a look at for a few weeks, nothing I can do about that. So the display is the main reason why I wanted to open this up and obviously show you the keyboard and the trackpad, which we'll get onto in a moment. But looking at the display angles, this screen, as I said before, supports a resolution of up to 1920 by 1080, and I am very impressed with the quality of this screen. Now obviously I've got lights from my windows coming in on the screen, so you're not going to be able to see it as well as you should, but I can tell you that the viewing angles of this laptop are brilliant. I've not seen a laptop with, you know, for its price range, because with gaming laptops you essentially have around about the £800 mark, then you have them around about the £1,000 mark, which is what this category comes into, and then you have the £1,400, £1,500 mark of gaming laptop. There's generally not too much in between there, so for a £1,000 laptop to have a screen with very, very good viewing angles, in fact viewing angles that I would normally expect to see on the, you know, £1,500 bracket, I'm very impressed. So display, very good, 17-inch as I said. Looking at the actual keyboard here a little bit, I'll just tilt it up so you can see. It is backlit, and we will have a little bit of a zoom in so I can show you the colours there. So I decided it would actually be easier if I waited till dark and then showed you the backlit keyboard, because obviously it looks far more impressive in the dark. If you can hear the sounds of the fans, it's actually because we're playing some Tomb Raider, which is running fine on normal settings, which is not included in this benchmark, but if you want to see that again, let me know in the comments. But yeah, that's running fine as well. So you have various settings for the backlighting using the function key and the keys over on the right over here. So pressing a combination of those, you can turn them off or you can turn them on. So it comes to this blue lighting level. Press it again, it makes it slightly brighter on the dark blue. Press again, it goes kind of turquoise. And then press it once more and that apparently makes that bright. So you've got two colours, kind of a turquoise and a dark blue. I quite like the dark blue at its brightest level setting. It looks pretty cool. Obviously for those of you that love backlit keyboards, it might be nicer if the lights perhaps shone through some of the keys as well. I don't know, or offered you a wider range of colours. Anyway, that is the backlit keyboard. You do have, I should say, on the display I think it's a 2 megapixel webcam. So pretty standard for a laptop, you know, for Skype and what have you. The speakers, you have speaker grill all along here, and speakers set into the kind of actual hinge. That's done via Sound Blaster technology, and actually I'm reasonably impressed with how that sounds. You'll hear that again in the benchmarking. But obviously, with gaming laptops, generally because of the noise sometimes created by the fans and what have you, you're probably going to want to use a pair of headphones or a headset or something like that at some point. But again, that's more kind of personal preference than any inherent issue with the laptop. So finally, before we do some benchmarking, we're looking at the trackpad here. Now the trackpad, as you'll notice, doesn't have a separate left or right button. It's all built into the actual trackpad itself. So a left click anywhere on it will get you a left click, and a right click will get you a right click. I personally don't like that style of design. I would much prefer separate buttons. I think that's a lot more kind of easier to access. With this trackpad, it's also multi-gesture, so sometimes I did find it a little bit fiddly getting that perfect there with the controls. To scroll, you use 2 fingers and you scroll down on the trackpad. That will scroll you through most web pages. But yeah, obviously for gaming, really don't even bother trying to use a trackpad. Use a separate mouse. Do yourself a favour there. Help yourself out a little bit. So now that we've looked at pretty much everything here, let's do some benchmarking. So first off, we're going to have Total War Rome 2. We're going to be running the benchmark of that game just to show how that performs. Then we'll have a look at Assassin's Creed 4. And finally wrap it all up with Dota 2. And then I will give this laptop a score and let you know all my final thoughts. Okay, so for the first of the benchmarks that we're going to be running on the XMG C703, we're on Total War Rome 2, the latest version of the game, and we're using the Ultra preset. As you can see, we have most things set to Ultra. That's just the automatic preset that the game has. That does mean having anti-aliasing off. Text filtering is only set to trilinear. Shader modes of 5, vegetation alpha's off, we've got unlimited video memory enabled, blood effects are enabled, unit size is large, and then pretty much everything else is ultra. Depth of field is off, and that's using the GTX 765M with its own dedicated memory of, well, it shows up as just under 2 gig, but the card comes technically with 2 gig of its own memory to use that. So we're going to run the benchmark. So on that we have 25 FPS as our average, dipping to a low, I believe, of 17 it has there. And if you listen carefully, you might be able to hear the fans sort of really kind of... The thing is, they don't have a kind of a revving noise. It's not that loud, but they make more of a whoosh noise. Obviously, if I lifted the laptop up, put it up perhaps on, you know, an elevated position a little bit so more air could get under it, the fans aren't going to have to work as hard. Or I actually have a laptop cooler, which I'll show you when I wrap up this review and give it a score. I'll show you that, because actually I'd recommend that if you're looking for a good stand that helps get more air into the laptop. But obviously, wearing some headphones, you won't hear that problem. But the sound is very good actually from these speakers. So for the most part, if it's turned up high, you're not going to hear it too badly. So now I just want to tweak a few settings and use similar settings to what I use when I'm actually recording on my main PC, and just see how it copes with those settings. And just see how everything runs on kind of a custom set there. But that's obviously on ultra settings, so this laptop can handle it on ultra. You may not be able to have the biggest battles in the world. It'd probably be best keeping unit size on large. but I'm just going to give it a bit of a tweak here to see how much I can push this laptop with settings that I would normally use while I'm playing. Okay, so that's that all set up there. Let's hit accept. Obviously you can of course drop down the resolution, which I will do one drop down of resolution in a moment. We're just going to run the benchmark now with kind of Lionheart's custom recording settings. We have an average there of 34.3, and that's just with a few little tweaks, not having an ultra, but the quality, I don't know how well this camera's going to pick it up, but for me personally it still looked great, not a problem whatsoever. So that is some benchmarking of Rome 2. I did just say I would do one though. We'll drop the quality down to 1600 by 900 here. Which obviously does make things look a little bit slightly blurry, kind of slightly out of focus, but we'll have a look at how, with the same settings that I previously just set up, how that affects the FPS one final time with the benchmark. Zooming in down to a low of 45 there. Now this is going to be the big point where the flaming balls come in. That'll probably take it down to 20s, perhaps. Yeah, we got down to 28, so that's actually pretty darn solid. So again, giving yourself a reasonable performance boost here by just switching down from the full 1920 by 1080 resolution there. Now this is I would say, is very smooth gameplay for Rome 2, not a problem. You can have some nice big battles. Again, I've got these units set to ultra unit size. Easy way of also gaining lots of extra FPS is by whacking down the unit size to large. You still get big battles with thousands of men, but it's not such an impact. So average there is 45.4. Just going to make a quick screenshot of that to throw up for you guys to have a look at. And yeah, the lowest dip took us down to apparently 27 FPS. I think that's perfectly reasonable for this laptop and for Rome 2. Again, just bring you back to those settings. Loading very fast, as I said. So a mix of very high and high settings there, with obviously ultra unit size. So you could probably whack a few things up to, even ultra perhaps, or a few things that are on high up to very high by lowering that unit size down a bit. But those are my recommended settings for kind of a laptop with a GTX 765M on there. Probably you can tweak a few more things as well, but by just tweaking that resolution a little bit makes a world of difference. Anyway, that's the Rome 2 benchmark. We're now going to have a look at Assassin's Creed 4 and then some Dota 2. So now here's a bit of a benchmark test for Assassin's Creed 4. Now I've just started up the game. I haven't actually played much on here again, so I just started a new game because we get some naval combats from the start, and then I'll just play it up to the first bit where we get a bit of sword fighting and what have you. But I just want to show you the graphics that the game has automatically set this laptop to run at. So it's set it pretty much at low settings with most things off. It's also whacked the resolution down to 1366 by 768. Now actually, unlike Rome 2, this resolution doesn't make it look kind of out of focus or slightly blurred for me playing. I don't know how, obviously, again, this translates to camera quality. So you can see a lot of things. I mean, environmental quality is very low, text quality low, anti-aliasing is off, shadow quality is low, reflection quality is off, motion blur is on, ambient occlusion is off, God rays off, volumetric fog off, VSync is on. So let's just jump in here. Now we're currently sailing this ship round, and I've got to admit, because I've been playing this on my computer recently quite a lot, the graphics still look really good on low. Now I don't know if that's more of a credit to the game, well, it is more of a credit to Ubisoft than anything else, that actually it still looks great on lower settings. But there we go, nearly got this ship down. But yeah, it's running it really nice and smoothly. We're getting, as you can see by the FPS count on the top left, we're getting 50s, 40s. Just trying to destroy that big ship, and then we can progress on to some wandering around on an island, if I remember the start correctly. Just trying to spin the ship round. I'm using an Xbox controller for PC. So that's why I'm not using the keyboard and tapping it all over the place at the moment, which makes benchmarking this a lot easier to do. Now we have a cutscene. But yeah, have a look at some of the character models now and think, well, this is on low quality, or very low in some cases. At a lower resolution as well. I still think it looks pretty darn good. Very surprised at how well this looks. Obviously I will try and whack it up to the higher settings in a moment. But this is running very smoothly.
Edward.
And it looks fine.
Privateering. Is it dangerous?
Let's quickly change up some of the settings, see what differences we can kind of do here. Options. First thing I'm going to do is actually whack up the resolution and just see how that obviously affects everything. Accept the changes. Now let's come back on. Obviously, it just makes everything a little bit wider. Okay, instantly we've lost 15 odd FPS.
It's 100 leagues or more,
but we're still getting 40 odd FPS. Again, 30 FPS is kind of when we start worrying about things. It's all working pretty smoothly so far. Even in this big environment where there's lots of things to load up, that's totally fine. And we're going to put environment quality up to normal. I'm trying to set everything to normal now. Anti-aliasing, we will put FXAA on, nothing higher than that. I'm actually going to put motion blur off. Personally, I don't like it. We'll put that on. We'll put them at low. Volumetric fog will leave off, and VSync will leave on. Okay, so we're down to 25 FPS there. Looking at all that, then it is a little bit laggy. Can't really say I see too much change in the graphics and how it all looks, but if we put all those settings back down, we'll leave motion blur off actually. God rays off. Yep. So now instantly the game's a lot smoother. It's nearly at 60 FPS. It's holding at 58. Obviously you don't have anti-aliasing or anything like that. And oh crap, how'd I survive that? But yeah, solid 60 FPS now, pretty much. This is really nice and smooth. Yeah, I don't care about the stalking zones, I just want to kill everyone. Show some combat. Okay, we're gonna do that to him. Nice and smooth. And the game still looks pretty darn good. I'm actually quite amazed at how nice this game looks on supposedly low settings. It doesn't look that bad at all. But that's where I'm going to wrap up this benchmark here. We're going to show a little bit of Dota 2. Probably not as much as I've shown for Rome 2 and Assassin's Creed, because there's not so many different areas to look at with Dota 2. But yeah, so that was the Assassin's Creed 4 benchmark. Okay, so this is the Dota 2 benchmark. I've just loaded up a game with bots to show how everything works. Running at smooth 60 FPS right now. The render quality, which is the main graphical setting in Dota 2, which sort of sets the quality, that is set to 50%. So this doesn't look amazing, to be honest, graphics, but you can still quite smoothly play the game. 60 FPS, nice and smooth and solid. So I'm just going to go up to the settings and just show you what we've got it set to on the advanced stuff. So render quality, if I whack that to 100% here, leave everything else off, things like anti-aliasing, specular bloom, water quality, fog, shadows at low, and all that sort of stuff, and then drop back into the game. So this is it basically in terms of the texture, as probably some of the better quality that we're going to get. That's not too bad. Let's have a look at some of the other settings quickly. Textures are set to high by default anyway. If I whack everything on, if I just put everything to maximum, we'll see how much of a hit this makes. Okay, so zoomed out we still have sort of 60, 50 odd FPS. It's now dipping a little bit. We need to get into a fight, basically. I'm not playing this to play well, just showing you how it will do. With Dota, generally, over 30 FPS again is nice and smooth. Don't want my character to die too early, just to show you some stuff here. But zoom right in, the quality's good. You can play Dota 2 maxed out, not a problem. You know, even in big fights later on, it's going to be fine. It's not going to go down that low, and that's with everything completely maxed out. But again, if you want to tweak some of the settings, then you can. And again, I think this resolution is using my desktop's native one. Yeah, we're using, we've got borders window, so we can actually go full screen. Let's apply that, which is going to quickly, obviously, take it out then. But the borderless window sometimes does lower your FPS a little bit, and now we've got it back in. FPS is slightly higher, so it's perfectly playable, completely maxed out. Dota 2, not a problem at all. I'm not showing, you know, anywhere near as much of the benchmark, of this benchmark with Dota 2 as this test, because I spent so long on Rome 2 showing all the different settings, and on Assassin's Creed 4. But then with those games there's lots of different shifting environments. With Dota 2 you're on one map, and you know, bar getting into some pretty big fights perhaps later on with lots of characters, there's not going to be a lot of change to the FPS that's really going to need to affect it. But this FPS is perfectly fine. You know, you're getting 50 to 60, and the game runs nice and smooth with everything set to its highest settings. But obviously, as I showed you, if for some reason you want more FPS, you can quite easily lower things, tweak it all, and it's going to work fine. So now I'm going to wrap up this review, give you my final thoughts, pros and cons, and the score. Now I just want to show you the cooling pad that I use for my laptop, which is this Coolermaster. I think it's called the Coolermaster U3. I'll put a link to it in the description where you can pick one up. I bought this about 4 years ago for my old MSI gaming laptop, and the reason why I love it is because it's got these three little fans on the back which you can just unclip from the kind of mesh as such, and then clip it back on wherever you want, and you can target wherever the vents are on your laptop and it will work perfectly. Also, it's raised up, so it gets lots of natural sort of airflow underneath anyway. I think that's, if you're worried about heat, or if you're worried about lots of noise from the fans and you want to lower them or something like that, but you still want to get lots of airflow going, that's a really good cooling system. I think it was around about £20, so it's not insanely expensive for a cooling pad, and yeah, works pretty well. And that supports 17-inch laptops as well. So, what do I think of the XMG? Well, as I sort of said all the way through, I'm really impressed with the chassis design. The fact that it's so thin, even though it is quite a big laptop. It's a 17-inch laptop, but there's extra space on the sides. Obviously, because it's so thin, it's stretched out a little bit as such. But I honestly think if you don't have the money to go, you know, all out for a £1,500 laptop, you know, SLI graphics card, something like that, you're looking for something that can play your games at reasonable settings, the modern games as well, this is actually a pretty good buy. I really can't fault too many things with it. The main thing that I said I didn't like was the mouse trackpad. I don't particularly like that. I would have preferred separate buttons on it, but again, for a gaming laptop, you really shouldn't be spending that much time on the trackpad as such. I guess there is more space for a few more kind of like peripheral connections along the sides of the laptop, but again, I'm assuming there aren't more because of the thin design. They've pretty much crammed as much as they can in here. For the system itself, for about the £1,000 mark, for a gaming laptop, this is actually pretty reasonable. It's going to be probably one of the best laptops at that price range, and certainly the thinnest. So if you're looking for something that's portable and powerful, this is the one to go for. Now, I'm sure there's going to be people who have been watching this review all the way through thinking, there's no point getting a gaming laptop, there's no point. And all I can say to those people is that there is certainly a lot of consumers that are looking for a powerful laptop solution, because you can't easily pick up your gaming desktop, your monitor, your speakers, and take it around someone's house and play all your games. With this, you can. Sure, it's more expensive than a comparable desktop, but generally, if you need something portable, if you're moving around a lot, if you're going to uni and you want to be able to take something easily but still play all your games and you've got some money to throw around, I think this is a perfect perfect buy to go for. In a way, I would have liked the option to be able to upgrade the graphics card on it. Because of the slim case design, that is kind of, in a way, almost a negative for upgradability. You can only change the RAM in it, really. There are some hard drive configurations, as I said, that are accessible on the website. Battery life obviously isn't great, but then it's got a powerful processor and powerful GPU in it, and I know some people are going to say, why didn't you do any benchmarks with it off the power, you know, test it like that? It's because it's just going to drain too quickly. It can still run things fine. Make sure you've got it set to high performance, because then it will be giving it all the beans. But ideally, if you really want to sit down for a good long gaming session, take your power cable, plug in, use the mains. That's my recommendation for it. And I still think that's portable. Even on some trains now, there are power sockets and things like that if you're thinking you want to play on the train. Although, honestly, I think if you really want maximum portability, it might be better looking at a 15-inch gaming laptop rather than a 17-inch. As I said, I personally see 17-inch gaming laptops as more of desktop replacements if you're the portable type that likes to you know, get up and game wherever sort of thing. But because it's so thin, it does kind of offset that size issue a little bit. Yeah, so score-wise, yes, it is still quite expensive for a piece of kit that, you know, for some games isn't going to run it maxed out. I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 10 with a raw recommendation. Now, I give my raw recommendations out to products that I wholly, you know, support and that I think are within their price range, you know, the best that you're going to get. And within this price range for this laptop, for someone's needs that needs a high-end portable laptop, 17-inch, full 1080 screen, I don't think you're going to find much better than this. If you are a PC or laptop company that thinks you can better this, then feel free to get in contact with me, and I'll more than happily perhaps you know, give your piece of kit a raw recommendation if it can beat this, basically at a similar price point. But honestly, I've had a look around, had a look at what its competition has to say in terms of reviews online and things like that, and I can't find anything to really match it. So because of that, it's a 9 out of 10 and a raw recommendation for the XMG C703. I'd like to say a massive thanks to them for getting it sorted and sending this over to me to review. As I said during the review earlier, if there are any other games you would like me to benchmark for the next week while I still have this laptop before I send it back, then please do comment below and let me know. As always, I hope you enjoyed this review. Please remember to comment, rate, subscribe. Ciao for now.